Now on the show, I want to take a look at a powerful new documentary that has just been released called The Rescue. Now, this is a National Geographic documentary based on the cave rescue that happened in northern Thailand in 2018, where 12 boys from a soccer team and their coach were rescued from a flooded cave. Now, this documentary has a very personal feel for me because I was scheduled to arrive in Thailand not very long after this incident happened, and I shouldn't say scheduled because I did go. And when I got there, this had just happened, and these guys that were responsible for this rescue were still being hailed absolute heroes by the people of Thailand. I think people in other countries kind of didn't really get the feel about how much this meant to the Thai people. From very, very early on in when this happened, people started to think that these kids had no hope at all. It was pretty widely being reported in Thailand that these kids were not going to make it. Families were basically being told these kids are not coming out of this cave. So the fact that they were able to put together an international team that were able to come in and rescue these kids was absolutely amazing. And I use the same term to describe this documentary. I went into this documentary expecting that it would be one of those documentaries like the What Went Wrong documentaries, those airplane crash documentaries where everything is reenacted with some dodgy looking actors. That was not the case with this documentary. This documentary has been put together by Jimmy Chin and Elizabeth Shea Vazarathi. And this documentary is absolutely amazing because it uses actual footage. It absolutely blew me away. Like I said, I was expecting reenactments, and that is not what I got at all. In fact, not a lot of people probably would have realized at the time because everything was kept so quiet for the media. But the Thai Army and Navy actually had cameras down in the caves, as did the dive team that went through to rescue the children. They had body cams on them. And that is pretty much what this documentary is made up of. There are media grabs in there as well, and there's some footage that was shot by media at the time. But, of course, because they were kept well back from the caves, it's not the stuff that makes this documentary so special. I think I'll always remember the footage in this documentary of the moment when the two British divers found the boys. That body cam footage is just absolutely brilliant. And let's be honest, that footage is going to go down in history as historical footage. In 100 years' time, people will be watching that footage in the same way that we watch the Kennedy assassination these days. The other thing that really comes across in this documentary, and I think the directors did it so well, is that these divers were practically superheroes with what they did. But they were not superheroes when you meet them personally. This documentary has some really candid interviews with these guys, where they get to tell their story about what happened, but you also get a great look at what their personal lives are like. I think we all knew that one of the British divers lost his father on the same day that the rescue happened. But this shows a different side to that and shows what his relationship with his father was like before that. This film also shows how doubtful the divers were with rescuing these kids. These divers thought that they were never going to be able to do it. You see some really tense meetings in this documentary as well because everything was being filmed. You see meetings with the British divers and the Thai Navy where they're at an absolute loss at what to do to get these boys out. You see the meeting in this documentary where they actually come up with the idea of sedating the boys. And you can tell that nearly everybody in the room thinks that this is going to be a death sentence for these boys, that there's no way that this idea that's never been done before is going to work. I cannot recommend this documentary enough. This is a documentary that it is guaranteed to make you emotional. There are some truly emotional moments during this documentary, but I really have to take my hats off to the directors, because they have done such an amazing job to make this a documentary that doesn't rely on reenactments. It is an absolutely brilliant documentary that is guaranteed to become an historical time capsule. 5 stars from me. This documentary is absolutely stunning.